Hey everybody, happy Monday and happy Holy Week. So for those of you who live in SoCal like me, if you look out the window, it is currently raining, cats and dogs. I guess it's kind of a good thing because it's forcing people to stay indoors because due to the current situation, we definitely want people to be staying at home. So that way we can overcome COVID so much faster. So today I've decided, because the whole mood and everything of, everyone probably being inside, I wanted to dedicate today's video to do a spiritual reflection, since for those of us who are religious, I'm a Catholic, so this is Holy Week. And so it's the last week of Lent before Easter Sunday. It makes me sad that, I'm not going to be able to celebrate Easter Mass like normal with my family. But, it is what it is. We've got to make the most of it. So one of my Lenten promises was to, dedicate more time to prayer and spiritual reflection. And so I have actually been starting to journal. I've actually never journaled before, ever, when it comes to spiritual stuff. And so in my other video, I did mention I did give quite a few of these best Lent ever journals, but I never really got to talk about what I do. So in today's video, you'll get to go along with me along my journey of, what that partakes. So I'll get to show you what's inside of this journal, kind of like my routine of what I've been doing for the past 30 days, or I've lost track how many days it's been for Lent, but there's 40 days in Lent. And so in a few seconds here, you're going to see a snapshot picture of today's journal, so that way you guys can follow along, pause, and feel free to write down your thoughts, or honestly what you want to take away from this video, to maybe give you the chance to, start your own form of prayer or spiritual reflection, or anything you want to do, from now until Easter. It's never too late, and just trying to help you guys so you guys can be better prepared for Christ's resurrection. And if you guys aren't religious, hopefully maybe this might allow you to learn something new of what, I do in terms of faith, or what I'm trying to do. And maybe take away just like the aspect of, setting down quiet time, to allow you to reflect over today. Especially since with this whole COVID situation, it's definitely opened my eyes to seeing things in a new light. I definitely realized I've taken so many things for granted. As someone who's always constantly busy, I'm always running around, and I never really give time for myself to sit down and kind of like reflect and appreciate the little things that God has blessed me with every day. And like for this rain, for example, like I know it kind of like sets the mood into being sad and gloomy, but really maybe it's a form of Mother Nature kind of cleaning the air, since most of us are inside, less pollution, so clean your air. And with it being spring, hopefully we'll have luscious green hills and a bloomful spring. Anyways, And lastly, I'm so sorry I'm talking so much. Just kind of like getting things out of my head. Because this whole channel is about spreading positivity and good vibes during these unfortunate times. I want to also give some shout outs. So if any of you guys want some shout outs, I know maybe some people have like small businesses on the side, or if you're like an artist or whatever, and maybe you're having a difficult time, getting that support. Feel free to let me know and I will give you a shout out here. One of my friends actually made me really happy to hear that she was inspired by me creating my own channel, that it motivated her to start her very own YouTube channel. It's called Jade's Board. So go ahead and check that out and support her. Her channel is more of daily vlogging, kind of like keeping a diary during this shelter in place, so a lot of just like random videos. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and check out her channel. Link is below in the description. And one other shout out, I want to congratulate again one of my friends for getting into PT school. So I'm incredibly proud of you, Jasmine, for getting in. Future DPT, woohoo! Okay, so those are my shout outs for today. And so let's go ahead and get started. So I usually like to make the sign of the cross just to get started, since this is a prayerful state. So in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. So before I get into this, there's actually a bunch of different books I have in the Holy Bible. So this black book here, I usually get from church. It's like a meditation book. So black is for Lent, usually blue I think is for Advent or Christmas time. So let's fill it to today, which is April 6th. I can't believe it's April 6th. Time flies. So just so you guys can see, it looks like this. And I'm going to go ahead and read it. So, usually the right has part of the gospel reading, I believe, from last Sunday's reading, so yesterday. And they break it down and kind of like give a little spiel about it, and then the left side is just background story facts. So, silver in the Bible. In the Passion narrative of Matthew, Judas is given 30 pieces of silver for his betrayal of Jesus. The amount of the payoff also turns up in the Old Testament. In Zechariah 11:12, chapter 11, verse 12, Zechariah is paid 30 pieces of silver for his labor. In Exodus chapter 21, verse 32, 30 pieces of silver is the payment given if a person's bull gores someone else's slave. Don't know what that means, but it sounds awful. Okay, so here is, I'm now reading the right side. So from the Gospel, Matthew chapter 26, verse 14 to 16. Then one of the 12, who was called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and said, "What are you willing to give me if I hand him over to you?" They paid him 30 pieces of silver, and from that time on, he looked for an opportunity to hand him over. Each gospel is really a collection of stories about Jesus. The earliest and most frequently told story about Jesus was the story of the last 18 hours in his life. The story of the way he died, so his crucifixion. Somehow this captured all that he was and what he came to do, and all that he said and stood for. Jesus never promised that he would prevent all evil, sickness, tragedy, or sin. After all, he gives us free choice. But he did promise that he could come to any evil situation of our own doing or of someone else's doing, small or great, and pull goodness and life out of it. Jesus said that his goodness would be more powerful than any evil. He was that good. Well, if he could go even to death on the cross, a senseless death at the age of 30 or so, a humiliating, repugnant, awful death, and pull life out of it, then the good news is true. He can come to any human situation and draw life. And so, the early church told the story over and over again, long before the Gospels ever were written. They told of the way he died, and they ended that story with an announcement that he pulled life out of it, the announcement of the resurrection. Great story, and all true. Okay, if you want to, you can pause the video, reflect over what I just read about, and then once you're ready, you can hit play again, and then we shall continue. Alright, so now that you're done reflecting over that first part, next we're going to go ahead and get into the Best Lent Ever journal. So feel free to follow along. So today is, my bad, I was 5 days off. Today is day 35 for Lent. Today's topic is Ralph, love of learning. Sorry. Alright, so today's focus, continuous learning plays a very important role in reminding us to be patient with ourselves and helping us grow in new and exciting ways spiritually. Okay, and then so we're going to go ahead and get into the personal reflections. So you go ahead and watch a video, which I will go ahead and show you. And then you're going to write down one thing that kind of stood out to you from listening to the video, okay? Okay, so we shall watch this together.
By the generous support of the Ambassadors Club. The saint we're exploring together today is Saint Ralph. He lived in the 9th century, and his lesson for us really was a love of learning. We named our 4th child Ralph, and one of the things when you're around kids, you just realize they're just naturally curious. Over time, I think that natural beautiful curiosity can be bred out of us, or it can become deformed, and we can become curious about the wrong things. And so Saint Ralph had this love of learning and this curiosity about the things of God. Continuous learning has become very popular as a phrase and as an idea in modern secular culture, and certainly in the business culture. But this concept has its roots in the lives of the saints. The saints were the original continuous learners. They were constantly learning new things, and they passed that on to us. The question is do we take that up from them and become continuous learners in the area of our faith? I think most people are continuous learners in general, but there is a specific invitation to become a continuous learner in the area of our faith. I've pointed out in the past, if you read 5 pages of a great book about your faith every day for a decade or 2 decades, it's astounding how much content you will be exposed to and absorbed. But if I said to you, okay, let's read 500 books over the next 20 years, you'd probably just get overwhelmed by that and think, well, that's impossible and never going to happen. And as a result of that feeling of being overwhelmed, we tend never to start. When if we approach it incrementally and say, okay, I'm going to read 5 pages a day, we very quickly see how we're exposed to all these great ideas which feed our relationships, which feed our conversations, which feed our prayer life, which feed every aspect of us. And so this idea of continuous learning is essential to our spiritual growth in many ways. the core virtue behind it is a virtue that all the saints possessed, is a virtue that all the saints teach us, but Ralph in a special way around this idea of continuous learning, and that's the virtue of patience. It takes patience, you know, to say, okay, I'm going to read 5 pages a day, every day, you know, of a great spiritual book. And of course that patience can't be contained in that experience. As we grow in patience, that goes out into every aspect of our lives. And we find ourselves being more patient with our children, being more patient with our spouse, being more patient, you know, with the strangers that cross into our lives. And so we realize that the saints teach us these lessons, which might seem to only apply to this one part of our life, but the power of virtue cannot be contained. You know, as we start to grow in a virtue, it will begin to manifest in every aspect of our lives and bear incredible fruit in every aspect of our lives.
Okay, so thank you for watching that. So now go ahead and on a piece of paper, your own journal, or if you have one of these, go ahead and take a few minutes to write down what stood out to you, and then go ahead and move on to the next question as well. So I'll give you about like 5 to 10 minutes. The other question is, what stimulates your curiosity and desire to learn? So I'm going to have you feel free to pause the video, take as much time as you need, and then once you hit play, we'll go ahead and do a little discussion. Obviously, I'm not going to get to hear what you guys wrote down or what your thoughts and reflections are, but I'm going to go ahead and share mine, what I kind of like took away from it. Maybe you can take away something from what I took away from the video, and then we'll move on to the right side. Okay? Okay, so coming back, now we're going to go ahead and go into the right side. So I changed my mind. I'll just do all the talking at the end, because I know, knowing me, I'm just going to end up talking, and then we're just not going to get into this. So I will go ahead and read. So it says on the top right hand corner, it's like the highlight quote from one of the readings. So either the Rediscover the Saints or the Bible. So this one's actually from the Rediscover the Saints. It says, "It is impossible to divide love. True love knows only how to multiply." So that's what it says. Alright, so today it says to read chapter 23 in this book. So what I really like about this like Lenten journal, it like goes hand in hand with this book. And I think that's really awesome, because I actually had this prior to the journal, but I had really no desire to read this book, and I also didn't have time. And lo and behold, it came along, and you know, it kind of like went together. And I actually am so glad that I am reading it, because like through the saints, there's like something you can learn from their story daily, and it doesn't mean that you need to be like spectacular like Saint Teresa or, you know, so and so, because they do all these extraordinary things. I know that we're very human, and sometimes we think that these saints are superhuman, but honestly, we can strive to be saints in our own way. You'll get a better understanding if you like read this book. Highly recommend. Anyways, talking too much again. So I will go ahead and read. So this is what the book looks like. It's cute. It's not long at all. Most of these chapters are like 1 or 2 pages. So today, again, is Ralph, love of learning. So what stimulates your curiosity and desire to learn? It is impossible to divide love. True love knows only how to multiply. When my first child, Walter, was born, I was filled with an immense love. I never knew I would love anyone that much. But then Isabel came along, and I was once again filled with that immense love. I instantly had as much love for her as I did for her older brother. Having more children expands the love of a father and mother. It doesn't divide it. Where did all that extra love come from? In a way, with each child that God has blessed us with, the love in my heart has increased infinitely. It's hard to describe. You love them all differently, yet with the same intensity. And loving them all differently expands the way you love others. My eyes fill with tears just thinking and writing about it. I now know that what it means to love so much it hurts. My father used to tell my brothers and me that we were his treasure, but it wasn't until I had my own children that I really understood what he meant and how much he loved us. Ralph Bernard is our fourth child and was named after my wife's maternal grandfather and my father. He shares his middle name not only with my father, but also with my eldest brother, Mark, who was killed in a car accident 10 years before Ralph was born. Oh, how tragic. Ralph was born on Mark's birthday, a poignant reminder of the circle of life. Wow, it really is. Whew. Okay. Saint Ralph was a Benedictine bishop in the 9th century known for his leadership and love of learning. Love of learning is one of the quintessential life skills. When we go for parent-teacher conferences, there is one thing I always say to our children's teachers. I don't care if my child is first in the class or last in the class. I am more interested in helping them to develop a love of learning. If they love learning, they will learn every day for the rest of their lives, and they will live rich and full lives. At times, it seems that modern education is a form of brutality. In Matthew's Gospel, Jesus quotes Isaiah, "He will not break a bruised reed or quench a smoldering wick." Matthew chapter 12:20. To educate children requires strength. It also requires gentleness. Their little souls need to be handled with care. We are all different and we all develop at different speeds. We all have different gifts, and when we try to force all children into the same mold, it bruises their roots and often kills their love of learning. So true. My precious Ralph has beautiful curiosity as with his brothers and sisters. It emerged quite naturally. Now the challenge as parents is to patiently nurture it. Patience is one of the greatest lessons that the saints teach us. They strove to be patient in all things, which reminds us that patience is one of the foundational virtues. How patient were you today? Of course, most of the saints didn't have toddlers to raise, and children have a unique ability to test the very extremes of our patience. We are all called to be patient with others, as well as with ourselves. One of the areas we most need to be patient with ourselves is in regard to our spiritual development. It is so easy to become discouraged. Continuous learning plays a very important role in reminding us to be patient with ourselves and helping us grow in new and exciting ways spiritually. The saints were continuously learning. They loved learning about God and the scriptures, discovering the person He created them to be, and growing spiritually. You know more about the faith than you did a year ago? How much have you learned about the spiritual life over the past 12 months? Most people are not called to a formal study of the faith, but we are all called to learn a little more each week, month, and year. For years, I have been encouraging people to read 5 pages of a great spiritual book each day. It is amazing how much we learn and grow over the course of a year, and outstanding what we learn over a decade if we read just 5 pages a day. It has never been more convenient to learn continually about the genius of our faith. Many of the saints never even held a book in their hand. And it ends with a little prayer. Father, fill me with a love of learning. Make me hungry to learn and grow in every aspect of life, especially spiritually. Help me to keep in mind that when I am growing spiritually, everyone in my life benefits from it. Amen. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly write down some things that stood out to me here under the what is God saying today. and then I will go ahead and read from the Bible. Okay, so the Bible. So you can use any type of Bible. For Catholics, actually, there's actually so many different versions of the Bible. Side note, I actually never owned a Bible, my own Bible, prior to Lent, or actually this year. So I actually bought this year for Lent on purpose because I started going to Bible study and I was super motivated to read more and kind of like prepare prior going to Bible study, because every time I went, I was so lost. I didn't even know the order of like where the chapters are. Like I didn't even know like I obviously knew what the Old Testament and New Testament were, but then it was like, okay, we're gonna read chapter blah blah and verse blah blah. And I'm like, where is that located? So I was ashamed to not know much, so that motivated me to go ahead and buy a Bible. But then when I started researching, I was like, oh my gosh, there are so many different Bibles. Which one is correct? Bibles are not cheap, and I wanted to make sure I would buy the right one. So I asked a few friends, and they recommended the Dewey Rams Holy Bible, which looks like that. Supposedly it's supposed to be the closest translation to the original Bible that was in Latin, but when you read it, kind of can be a little bit difficult to understand. It's not translated so much like English, everyday language, or what we read in like textbooks. If you're looking for more of that clearer translation, you can do the New American Bible. I think it's newly standardized, revised or something. It's like NSRV or something. And there's some other versions out there too. But anywho, we shall read John chapter 12. And yes, now I do know where things are. I'm not as lost. So, yay! I'm already learning. John 12. Not there yet. 11, 12. Alright. So, what I read might sound a little bit different than what you are reading, because again, I'm reading a different version, but the message is the same thing, or what we're reading is essentially the same thing. So chapter 12, verse 1 through 11. Okay, so chapter 12, the anointing of Christ's feet. His riding into Jerusalem upon an ass, a voice from heaven. Jesus, therefore, 6 days before the Pasch, came to Bethany, where Lazarus had been dead, whom Jesus raised to life. And they made him a supper there, and Martha served. But Lazarus was one of them that were at table with him. Mary therefore took a pound of ointment of right spikenard, of great price, and anointed the feet of Jesus, and wiped his feet with her hair. And the house, was filled with the odor of the ointment. Then one of his disciples, Judas Iscariot, he that was about to betray him, said, Why was not this ointment sold for 300 pence and given to the poor? Now he said this not because he cared for the poor, but because he was a thief, and having the purse carried the things that were put therein. Jesus therefore said, Let her alone, that she may keep it against the day of my burial. For the poor you have always with you, but me you have not always. A great multitude therefore of the Jews knew that he was there, and they came, not for Jesus' sake only, but that they might see Lazarus, whom he had raised from the dead. But the chief priests thought to kill Lazarus also, because many of the Jews, by reason of him, went away and believed in Jesus. Okay. So now, go ahead and again, pause the video, reflect, feel free to go ahead and repeat what I just read, because I know it's a lot of information, and then go ahead and journal your thoughts and reflections, and then finally we will end with what I learned and took away from today's spiritual reflections. Okay? Your hidden glory in creation, now revealed in you are Christ. What a beautiful name it is. What a beautiful name it is. The name of Jesus Christ. Okay. So, coming back, and hold on, this is like annoying. Loading. Okay. So, hopefully you guys had enough time to go ahead and write down your thoughts from everything that we just did, from the readings to the video. If you were kind of like stuck and didn't know what to write, you didn't have any idea, because I know some of us get writer's block, trust me. In the beginning, when I first started, it took me a while to kind of like get the hang of it, because honestly I was just like, what do people write in these books? And you know, definitely the first time you start something new, it's always difficult to, you know, start a new habit. But you know, once you get over that hurdle of, you know, keeping with that patience, kind of incorporating today's topic with this whole thing. So, you know, patience is an important virtue, and with the whole like Lenten thing, you know, it takes a lot of patience for whatever it is that you promised God that you would fulfill, or you know, until Easter. It could be giving up meat, it could be starting something new, it could be giving up social media, whatever it is. I'm sure it took a lot of patience. I know you were probably plenty of times tempted to, you know, go back to those habits, but I actually am an advocate for continuous learning. I'm just by nature a curious person. I ask a lot of questions, I talk a lot, sort of, kind of, and I do have a desire to learn, because I always strive for greatness. You know, it's kind of like that Mamba mentality, you know. If we're not continuously learning, then we are behind, right? Because everyone else, I'm sure, is striving to be their best version of themselves, and when you are the best version of yourself and, you know, standing your ground, or, you know, people see that, you know, you can be a role model for other people, whether you notice it or not. I know I had a lot of people say that they were inspired by my curiosity to learn or grow spiritually, you know, during this time, because I've grown to be more confident in sharing my story and, you know, helping others to also kind of like come back and work on their own, you know, faith journey, wherever, you know, you might be, whether you have stopped going to church. Maybe this is a great time for you to think about what was it that made you step away, and maybe what is it that will motivate you to come back. And hopefully there are, you reflected upon the right reasons for the actions that you are about to take. But anyways, yeah, so today's topic about continuous learning, I definitely had to stay patient with trying to journal daily. That was a huge jump from going from no journaling at all, not even like reading the Bible. Initially, my goal was just to read the Bible maybe once or twice a week. Now it's gone to be every day, which is great. I didn't think I would be able to do it. There has been like a couple slip-ups where I just got busy and didn't have the time to sit down and, you know, do that. If journaling is something maybe you're not so much interested in, maybe taking up prayer, you know. Do you know how to pray the rosary? The rosary is in fact a very powerful prayer. I think I do. Okay. So this is the rosary. I'm sure most of you guys have seen it, but maybe you never really read the story behind it, or, you know, how to. Maybe this is a great time for you to go ahead and start that. Learn how to pray the rosary, or maybe just finding time just to sit down and give time for yourself. Whatever it may be, I hope you are able to find it. And so I didn't really, this wasn't much of a like, today wasn't really like for me like learning anything. It's more of a reminder to keep going at keeping patient, and, you know, that like nod in the head that, yeah, you know, continue to learn. I mean, right now this is a learning experience for me. You know, vlogging for the first time. Well, I mean, this is not my first video, but it's a learning process. From my very first video to, as you see in the other videos, I've made some progress. I apologize, I'm not a YouTube star. Props to those who, you know, do this for a living. It is a lot of work. But again, this has been a great learning experience because now I know how to edit videos a little bit better, work with iMovie. I'm getting more comfortable talking in front of the camera. And all is not just for me, you know? Like, I find this fun and it's giving me something to do, but at the same time, my goal is to be able to inspire others, you know, especially with this time and now that it's still raining. Sometimes it's hard to, you know, just get out of bed or just get off the couch because maybe you just don't want to do anything. But hopefully by listening to this video, you know, sharing my story, what my goals are, and how I want to help you, hopefully this will turn the tides and allow you to choose a new goal. Again, since this is Holy Week, I'm dedicating this to be a more spiritual video. I hope and pray that you will go ahead and take up what it is that you want to work on, whether it is a spiritual goal or not, or just working on yourself in your personal life, and, you know, working on preparing yourself to be a better version of yourself from today, measured from the goal for Sunday, Easter Sunday. Hopefully you will have learned something new, or working towards a new habit, and don't let it end there. Just because you've reached your goal and it's Easter, don't stop learning, don't stop striving to, you know, continue your intellectual curiosity, because at the end of the day, whatever it is that you're striving for, people will see it. When we are all trying to support each other and you know, come together as a community, that's how we will overcome things, how we will grow together, and, you know, just be better people. I'm losing my words here, but again, this is a perfect time for you to go ahead and think about that, sit and reflect about what you want to do. If you do need some help or you want to share your ideas, your progress, comment below so then others can see, and let this be a community for sharing ideas and supporting each other. Maybe what I'm saying might not help you, but maybe someone else's idea or hobby or activity or goal might help you out. So in this we pray, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and the hour of our death. Amen. Father, I pray that today all of my friends and whoever is watching this video, I hope that they will have learned something, be able to hear your voice and allow them to grow closer to you, to be able to, take up a new habit, start a new goal to strive for, and help them so that they can continue to be continuous learners and to stay strong with patience. Amen. In the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. Alright, thank you so much for hanging in there with me. Thank you so much for continuing to watch and support me with this channel. I promise the next one will be more lighthearted. I know this was very deep. But hang in there. I believe in you guys. Love always. Bye!